They all died the same way, locked in a room, with no wounds on their bodies, and the same look on their faces, eyes wide, mouths open, like they were trying to scream at something no one else could see. At first, no one connected the deaths. Different ages, different homes, different causes listed on paper. But the expressions were identical. And when you see that kind of fear once, you don't forget it. When you see it 3 times, you start asking questions you're not supposed to ask. The town was called Marlow Creek, one of those places people pass through without noticing. One main road, a diner that closed at 8, and neighbors who smiled just enough to avoid conversation. Nothing bad ever happened there, according to the locals. That was always their favorite lie. The first man died in his farmhouse. Retired, quiet, found by his brother after 2 days of unanswered calls. The door was locked from the inside. Windows shut. No signs of a break-in. The coroner said heart failure. But heart failure does not leave claw marks on the inside of a door that was never opened. 2 weeks later, a woman was found dead in her apartment across town. Same situation. Locked door. No wounds. Same expression. Her neighbors said she'd been jumpy lately. Said she kept asking if anyone else heard footsteps at night. The third death happened in a motel off the highway. A man passing through. Or at least that's what people thought until his name showed up in old court records. That's when the pattern started to form. All 3 names appeared in the same case file from years earlier. A case Marlow Creek preferred to forget. A murder that never quite made sense. A conviction that came too fast. In 2004, a teenage girl was found dead near the woods outside town. No witnesses. No clear suspect. Just fear spreading faster than facts. The police needed someone, and they needed them quickly. They found Daniel Holt. Daniel worked nights at a packaging plant. He lived alone. He didn't drink. Didn't fight. Didn't even own a car. The kind of man people barely notice until it's convenient to notice him. Someone said they saw him near the woods that night. Then another person said the same thing. Then a third. None of them knew Daniel well. None of them could explain why he'd be there. But they sounded confident. Confident enough for a jury. Daniel kept saying he was at work. There were logs, time stamps, security cameras. Somehow those things stopped mattering once the statements were read out loud in court. The jury didn't deliberate long. Neither did the town. Daniel was sentenced to life in prison. No parole. No appeal that went anywhere. And just like that, Marlow Creek told itself the danger was gone. Daniel died in his cell 3 years later. The official story said suicide. Said he couldn't live with what he'd done. Said there was no sign of a struggle. Just a man who reached his limit. What the report didn't include was the power outage that night, or the fact that the cameras in his block failed at the same time, or the guard who later admitted he heard someone crying in the dark, not screaming, just crying, like a child trying not to be heard. Daniel was buried in a prison cemetery. No headstone. No service. No one from Marlow Creek attended. Life went on. Until it didn't. When the first witness died, people felt uneasy but stayed quiet. Coincidences happen. When the second died, people started whispering. When the third died, people started remembering things they'd worked hard to forget. There were others connected to the case. A detective who'd misplaced evidence. A prosecutor who leaned too hard on shaky testimony. A guard who signed off on reports he never read carefully. One by one they started dying too, always alone, always locked in, always with that same look. No one ever saw anything, no one ever heard a struggle. But just before each death, neighbors reported strange things. Lights flickering, footsteps in empty rooms, a feeling of pressure, like the air was heavier than it should be. One man called the police the night before he died. He said someone was in his house. When the officers arrived, they found him sitting on the floor, shaking, insisting that something was standing just out of sight. They left after finding nothing. He was dead by morning. On the wall behind him, written with shaking hands, were words that didn't match his voice. "You said you saw me." As the deaths piled up, the old case was reopened, quietly, without press conferences or apologies. Evidence that was once lost suddenly appeared. Time logs were confirmed. Footage was recovered from an old backup system no one had bothered to check before. Daniel Holt was officially cleared. Innocent. The announcement came years too late to matter to him, but it mattered to the town, because clearing Daniel meant admitting something else, that the witnesses lied, that the system didn't just fail, it cooperated. People wanted to know who really killed the girl. That answer never came. What did come was fear, because every person who lied, every person who bent the truth just enough to protect themselves, ended up dead in the same way, as if something was making them face the moment they chose silence over honesty. Some people said Daniel came back. Others said it wasn't him at all, that it was guilt or memory, or something older that feeds on lies and waits patiently for time to do the rest. The deaths stopped as suddenly as they began. Marlow Creek still exists. The diner reopened under new ownership. Houses changed hands. Families moved away. New people moved in. But there's an unspoken rule there now. Be careful what you swear to. Be careful what you say you saw, because lies don't disappear just because time passes. Sometimes they wait, and sometimes they come back looking exactly like the truth you buried. Subscribe if you want more stories where justice doesn't always come from the courts, and where the past refuses to stay quiet.